The doors of the old stone church slam open before the last echo of gunfire fades into the hills. Sang-woo staggers through them, one hand pressed against his ribs, blood soaking into the black fabric of his coat. He does not call for help. He does not look back. He simply walks, step after uneven step, toward the altar that has not changed in 15 years. He collapses to his knees in front of it. The candles are unlit. The wood is cold. And for a man that all of Seoul calls a monster, this is the only place on earth where he allows himself to break. His shoulders shake. A sound leaves him that no rival, no soldier, no enemy has ever heard. Something close to a sob, swallowed halfway before it becomes real. He grips the edge of the altar like it is the only solid thing left in his world. Then, small footsteps. He freezes. His hand moves instinctively toward his coat, toward the weapon hidden there, before he catches himself. A child stands in the doorway, holding a loaf of bread wrapped in cloth like it is something precious. She does not run. She does not scream. She tilts her head, studying him the way people study a puzzle they are not afraid of solving. "You're bleeding," Helena says. Sang-woo says nothing. His breath comes ragged. Every instinct in him screams that this is a trap, that no one finds him here by accident, that he should already be reaching for the door. But she is 9 years old, barefoot on cold stone, and she is walking closer instead of farther away. "My grandmother says people only cry this hard when their heart forgot how to heal," she says, setting the bread down beside him like an offering. "Are you hurt on the inside too? Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And if you're new here, click on the subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos." Sang-woo finally looks at her, really looks, and something in his chest, something he buried a long time ago, cracks open just slightly. "Go home," he says, voice rough. "This isn't a place for children. It's a church," Helena says simply. "It's a place for everyone." She does not wait for permission. She sits down on the stone step a few feet from him, hugging her knees, watching the shadows dance where the candlelight should be. Sang-woo wants to order her away. He wants to disappear before Yoon-suk arrives with the car and finds him like this, wounded, weeping, exposed. But he cannot make himself speak. So he lets her stay, just this once, in silence, until the pain in his side becomes the only thing loud enough to make him move. He does not tell her his name. She does not ask for it. But when he finally rises and walks unsteadily toward the door, she calls after him. "I'll bring more bread next week." He does not answer. He does not think she means it. She does. That night, back at the mission house, Mama Abena watches Helena hum while washing dishes, lighter than she has been in weeks. "You found a new friend," Mama Abena says. "He's not really a friend yet," Helena admits. "But I think he wants to be. He just doesn't know how anymore." "Some people forget how," Mama Abena says softly, drying a plate she has already dried twice. "It doesn't mean they can't remember." Helena considers this for a long moment. "How do you remember something you buried on purpose?" Mama Abena's hands still. "Very carefully," she says, "and usually not alone." Across the city, Sang-woo sits in his office long after his men have gone home, staring at a ledger he cannot bring himself to read. His phone buzzes with a message from a supplier demanding payment for a shipment he no longer wants delivered. He does not answer it. Instead, he opens the small drawer beneath his desk, glances at what waits inside, and closes it again without touching it. Not yet, he tells himself. But the fact that he thought it at all surprises him. 7 days later, Sang-woo returns to the church out of habit more than hope, expecting the same emptiness he has known every Sunday for 15 years. Instead, he finds Helena already there, sitting on the same step, a second loaf of bread wrapped and waiting. "You came back," he says, and it is not quite a question. "You looked hungry," she says, "and sad. Sad people forget to eat." Yoon-suk watches this exchange from the tree line outside, arms crossed, jaw tight. When Sang-woo finally emerges, Yoon-suk does not hide his concern. "She could be anyone," Yoon-suk says. "A courier, a plant, Someone testing how close they can get to you. She's 9. The Choi family used a 12-year-old to plant a bomb in a rival's car 3 years ago. Yoon-suk says flatly. Age means nothing to people who want you dead. Sang-woo says nothing, but the words settle into him like a splinter he cannot remove. Across the city, in the small mission house where she lives with her grandmother, Helena sits at the table peeling vegetables while Mama Abena hums an old hymn under her breath. There was a man at the church again, Helena says. The sad one. Mama Abena's hands still for just a moment. What does he look like? Tall. Serious. He doesn't smile. But his eyes look like someone who lost something. Mama Abena's expression shifts, quiet and unreadable. But she says only, be careful who you trust in that place, child. He's not dangerous, Helena says. He's just lonely. Mama Abena does not argue, but the crease in her brow does not disappear. The weeks pass in fragments. Helena brings food. Sang-woo says less than 10 words each visit, but he stops leaving before she does. He watches her the way a man watches something he does not understand and is afraid to lose. One Sunday, she asks him a question that stops him cold. Do bad people still deserve birthdays? He does not answer for a long time. I don't know, he finally says. I stopped counting mine. That's sad, Helena says. Everyone should get to be celebrated at least once a year, even if they did bad things, especially if they're trying to be different now. What makes you think I'm trying to be different? Helena shrugs. Because you keep coming back here. Bad people who like being bad don't cry in empty churches. Sang-woo has no answer for that. For the first time in 15 years, he does not want one. Meanwhile, at Seoul General, Dr. Nia Mensa finishes stitching a gash across a young man's forearm, one of Sang-woo's soldiers. Wounded in a skirmish, he refuses to explain. She has treated enough of them by now to recognize the pattern. Tell your boss, she says coldly, snapping off her gloves, that every time his war spills into my emergency room, someone's mother is sitting in that waiting room praying. The soldier says nothing. He never does. But the words find their way back to Sang-woo anyway, carried by men too loyal to keep silent about the doctor who speaks to gangsters like they are still capable of shame. Yoon-suk's suspicion about Helena does not fade, it sharpens. He follows her one afternoon, watching from a distance as she walks the narrow streets near the church, stopping to hand bread to an old man sleeping under a bridge, laughing with a group of stray cats like they understand her jokes. There is nothing rehearsed in it, nothing staged. And still, Yoon-suk cannot shake the feeling that danger is circling closer, that someone, somewhere, has noticed his boss's new and terrible weakness. He is right to worry. Word has already reached a rival family that the untouchable Sang-woo has a routine now. A church, a schedule, a soft spot shaped like a little girl. If comment is right about you doing all this walking down memory lane for a good story drop, I'm still watching below, so we know you're locked in for what happens next. The following Sunday begins like any other. Helena arrives with bread. Sang-woo waits at the same step. But this time, she brings a question that unsettles him more than any threat ever has. What was her name? Sang-woo's whole body goes still. Whose name? The woman you think about when you cry, Helena says, not unkindly. You touch your coat pocket every time you sit down. Like something's in there that hurts. He does not answer. He stands abruptly, the old defensive walls rising fast and high, and for a moment Helena thinks she has finally pushed too far, said the one thing that will send him away for good. Go home, he says, harder than he means to. Don't come back. Helena's eyes fill, but she does not cry. She simply nods, gathers her things, and walks out without another word. 3 days pass. Sang-woo does not visit the church. He buries himself in work instead. Meetings, threats, deals negotiated with a coldness that even his own men find unsettling. Yoon-suk notices the shift immediately. You're worse than before? Yoon-suk says one night, watching Sang-woo stare at nothing across his office. Whatever that girl did to you, undo it before it gets you killed. She didn't do anything to me, Sang-woo mutters. That's the problem. She just noticed. He does not sleep that night. Somewhere past midnight, he finally opens the small compartment in his desk drawer he has not touched in years. A pink baby shoe, small enough to fit in his palm, kept wrapped in cloth exactly the way Helena wraps her bread. He holds it until his hands shake. The next Sunday, he returns to the church. Helena is already there, sitting exactly where she always sits, as though she never doubted he would come back. "I'm sorry," Sang-woo says, and the words feel foreign in his mouth, like a language he forgot how to speak. "It's okay," Helena says simply. Everyone gets scared of the same questions sometimes. He sits beside her, closer than he ever has before, and for the first time he speaks without being asked. "Her name was Soo-jin," he says quietly. "We were going to get married here." Helena does not interrupt. She simply listens the way only a child who has already lost people of her own can listen, without flinching, without needing to fix it, just present. "She died," he continues, "and so did our daughter, before either of them ever got the chance to live the life I promised them." "That wasn't your fault," Helena says. "You don't know that." "Neither do you," she says. "You've just decided it's true because it hurts less than not knowing." Sang-woo turns to look at her, stunned by how simply a 9-year-old has said what no therapist, no priest, no soldier ever dared to suggest to his face. But even as something in him begins to loosen, danger is already moving toward them both. A black car idles 2 streets from the church. Inside, men from a rival organization study photographs of Sang-woo entering the building each week, along with a smaller, more troubling photograph. A little girl, bread in hand, walking the same path every Sunday like clockwork. "He's predictable now," one of them says, "for the first time in 15 years. And predictable men," the driver replies, "are easy to end." "What about the girl?" The driver studies the photograph a moment longer before sliding it back into the folder. "Leave her out of the first move. We want him distracted, not desperate. A desperate man makes mistakes. A cornered one makes martyrs. And if she gets in the way?" The driver does not answer right away. "Then that's a decision for whoever's standing there when it happens. Not ours to make now." The car pulls away from the curb, unnoticed. One more shadow among many on a street that has already forgotten how many secrets it has kept. Yoon-suk senses the shift before it happens. Cars that don't belong. Faces that repeat too often on the same street corner. He doubles security around Sang-woo without asking permission, doubles it again around the church without telling him why. "Something's coming," he warns. "I can feel it." "Then handle it," Sang-woo says. "Quietly. Don't scare her." "Her," Yoon-suk repeats bitterly. "You're worried about scaring a stranger's granddaughter more than you're worried about your own life." Sang-woo doesn't answer, because there is no answer that will satisfy either of them. Yoon-suk watches him walk away and, not for the first time, wonders which version of his boss he is meant to protect, the man who built an empire out of grief, or the man slowly dismantling it one Sunday at a time. He decides, in the end, that it does not matter. Loyalty was never about agreeing. It was about staying close enough to catch him when he falls, whichever way he falls. He doubles the watch anyway. He does not tell Sang-woo how many men he has posted, or how many nights he has spent awake studying license plates that circle the same block too many times. Some burdens, he has learned, are easier carried in silence. At the hospital, Dr. Nia Mensa finds herself face to face with Sang-woo for the first time when he arrives, unannounced, to check on a wounded guard. She does not soften her tone for him. "You keep sending me broken men," she says, "and expecting me to fix what your world breaks. I didn't ask you to fix anything." "No," she says, "but someone has to, and it's never you." Something about her refusal to be intimidated lodges itself in him, the same way Helena's honesty did. He leaves without a reply, but he does not forget the way she looked at him. Not with fear, but with disappointment, as though she believed he was capable of being better and resented that he wasn't trying. He returns 3 days later, this time without a wounded man to justify his presence. "You're not here for a patient," Nia says, arms crossed, clearly unimpressed. "No. Then why?" Sang-woo hesitates, searching for words that will not sound as foolish out loud as they do in his head. I wanted to ask if what you said was true, that someone has to fix what my world breaks. I wanted to know if it could be me, for once instead of you. Nia studies him for a long moment, the way she studies a diagnosis she does not fully trust yet. Actions, she finally says, not questions. Come back when you have something to show me instead of something to ask me. He nods once and leaves, and for the first time in years, a conversation ends with him feeling lighter instead of heavier. The following Sunday arrives heavier than the others. Helena senses it the moment she steps through the church doors. Sang-woo pacing instead of kneeling, glancing toward the windows instead of the altar. Something's wrong, she says. You need to go home today, he says. Now, please. Why? Because for once in your life, listen to me without asking why. Helena hesitates, torn between the fear in his voice and the stubbornness in her heart. Before she can decide, the first gunshot shatters the silence outside, followed by shouting, followed by the unmistakable sound of men storming toward the church doors. Sang-woo grabs her without thinking, pulling her behind the altar as with splinters and old stained glass rains down around them in fragments of color. Yoon-suk's men return fire from the entrance, buying seconds that feel like hours. Stay down, Sang-woo orders, shielding her body with his own. Whatever happens, stay down. Helena's hands grip the front of his coat, her breathing sharp and fast, but she does not scream. Somewhere beneath the chaos, an old priest lies trapped under a fallen beam near the side pew, calling weakly for help that no one else can hear over the gunfire. There! Helena shouts, pointing. Helena, no! But she is already moving, faster than fear should allow, crawling low toward the trapped priest while bullets chew through wood above her head. Sang-woo curses and follows, throwing himself between her and the line of fire, taking a graze along his shoulder that he does not seem to feel. Together they pull the old man free just as the gunfire outside begins to falter, Yoon-suk's men finally gaining the upper hand. Like this video and let us know in the comments if your heart is racing as much as ours is right now. And if you haven't already, subscribe so you don't miss how this story ends. When the smoke clears, Sang-woo sits against the shattered altar, Helena trembling but unharmed beside him, the old priest breathing shallow but alive nearby. You're bleeding again, Helena says, voice shaking, pressing her small hands against the wound on his shoulder as if that alone could hold him together. It's not deep, he says, though his face says otherwise. You could have died protecting him, protecting me. I know. Why? Sang-woo looks at her, really looks, the way he did the very first night she found him crying. Because somewhere between the bread and the questions I couldn't answer, you stopped being a stranger to me. And I've already lost people I couldn't protect. I wasn't going to lose you too. Helena doesn't say anything else. She simply leans against him, careful of the wound, and waits with him in the wreckage until help arrives. Mama Abena arrives moments later, having run the entire way from the mission house the second she heard the gunfire, and freezes in the doorway at the sight in front of her. Her eyes go not to the destruction, not to the blood on Sang-woo's shoulder, but to the pendant hanging loose from beneath his torn collar. Where? She whispers. Did you get that? Sang-woo's hand rises instinctively to the pendant. It belonged to someone I loved. She died a long time ago. Sujin, Mama Abena says, and it is not a question. Sang-woo's entire body goes rigid. How do you know that name? Mama Abena's eyes fill with tears she has clearly carried, unspoken, for a very long time. I was there, she says quietly. Years ago, before Helena, before any of this. I was a nurse at the clinic where she was brought in. I sat with her in her final hours because she had no one else. The church falls into a silence deeper than any gunfire could create. She spoke of you until the very end. Mama Abena continues. She made me promise something, and God forgive me, I never found a way to keep that promise. I didn't know your name. I didn't know your face. I only knew a woman dying far too young, begging a stranger to carry a message to a man she loved. Sang-woo can barely breathe. What message? Mama Abena steps closer, her hand trembling as it rests over his. She said if you survived, if you ever found your way out of the life that took her from you, you were not to spend it drowning in guilt. She forgave you before she ever stopped breathing. She wanted you to choose love again. Not revenge. Not silence. Love. For 15 years, Sang-woo believed he was carrying a debt that could never be repaid. For 15 years, he built an empire out of grief because he thought punishment was the only language left between him and the woman he lost. He had never once considered that the debt had already been forgiven, and that no one had ever told him. Helena watches him break down for the second time in front of her. But this time it is different. This time, the sound leaving him is not despair. It is release. You could have told me sooner, he says to no one, to everyone, to the ceiling of the church that has held his grief for so long. I didn't know who to tell, Mama Abena says gently, until a 9-year-old girl kept talking about a sad man at the church who touches his pocket when he cries. Helena, despite everything, allows herself a small, tired smile. I told you, she says, everyone deserves to know when they're loved. In the weeks that follow, something in Sang-woo shifts in a way that even Yoon-suk cannot ignore. Meetings once filled with threats now include quiet conversations about withdrawal, about restructuring, about walking away from a life that has cost him everything it promised to protect. You're really doing this, Yoon-suk says one evening, more statement than question. I spent 15 years punishing myself for something I was already forgiven for, Sang-woo says. I'm not wasting 15 more. It is not immediate. It is not easy. Old enemies do not simply disappear because a man decides to change. And Sang-woo spends months untangling himself from a world built on debts owed and blood spilled. But piece by piece, he begins redirecting what remains, funding shelters, medical clinics, and programs for children who, like Helena, have lost more than any child should. Dr. Nia Mensa is the one who helps him build it properly, structuring the foundation with the same precision she once used to save the very soldiers his old life produced. I still don't fully trust you, she tells him honestly, reviewing paperwork across a cluttered desk. That's fair, he says. I don't fully trust myself either, but I'd like the chance to earn it. Something almost like a smile crosses her face. Then start by showing up. Consistently. That's usually where trust begins. He does show up. Every week, at the clinic, at the shelters, and every Sunday at the church, no longer alone. The first shelter opens in a neighborhood he once controlled through fear rather than kindness. Old faces recognize him there. Men who once worked for him, mothers who once crossed the street to avoid him, and watch, uncertain, as he carries boxes of donated clothing through the doors himself instead of sending someone to do it for him. You don't have to do that, one of his former soldiers says, reaching for the box. I know, Sang-woo replies. I want to. It becomes a small thing that grows into a pattern, and the pattern becomes a life he no longer recognizes from the one he spent 15 years building out of guilt. Helena and Mama Abena join him now as a matter of habit rather than surprise. The broken stained glass has been repaired, the altar restored, the silence replaced with quiet conversation instead of grief. Do you still cry here? Helena asks him one Sunday, swinging her legs from the same step where she once left him bread. Sometimes, Sang-woo admits, but not because I'm broken anymore. Sometimes people cry because they're grateful. That's a good kind of crying, Helena decides. Yes, he says. It is. Months pass, and the man once called the devil of soul becomes something the city no longer recognizes. Quieter, steadier, present in ways no one thought possible. Yoon-suk remains fiercely loyal, though his loyalty now serves protection instead of destruction. Dr. Nia Mensa and Sang-woo build something slow and honest between them, neither rushing toward a future neither is certain they deserve, but both willing to try. You showed up, Nia tells him one evening, watching him finish inventory at the clinic without being asked twice. I told you I would. People tell me things all the time, she says. Most of them don't mean it. I'm not most people anymore, he says. I'm working on it, at least. She almost smiles. Working on it is more than I usually get. I'll take it. And Helena. The little girl who once walked fearlessly toward a stranger's grief holding nothing but bread and an unshakable belief that no one cries alone unless someone is meant to notice, continues doing exactly what she has always done. She notices people the world has stopped looking at. If this story moved you even a little, tell us in the comments which moment hit you hardest. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe so you never miss the next story that reminds you healing can start in the most unexpected places.